Hello, welcome back to your mat. Today we're going to do a little self-care for our feet and our hands and wrists. So these two are obviously something we use every day. We walk on our feet, and obviously we're using our hands in our everyday living. So it's nice to give them a little love and a little self-care. So we'll get started right away. No props are needed, just yourself. And we'll start with a quote. Almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, including you and Lamont. So we'll get started with our feet. Gonna dive right in. So we're gonna just start with one foot at a time, and we're just gonna do something simple here. So you can be seated in a chair, you can sit on your mat, you can sit up on if you wanna have a blanket, whatever. You don't need any of that stuff, but if you'd like it, go for it. We're just gonna start rolling the ankle in circles. So we're gonna give it, and if you wanna guide it a little bit to give it a little bit more there without being overly aggressive, obviously. We're just giving a nice little roll to the ankle here, to the ankle joint. Kind of warming that foot up a little bit. So just give it a nice roll. You'll probably hear some little cracks and pops, and that's okay. So, the feet are really important, and a lot of times we kind of ignore them, despite them being the foundation. We'll go ahead and switch to the other foot. The foundation of our whole bodies. I mean, we put our entire weight on our feet. So go ahead and roll that other ankle in circles. You can do it without your hand, or you can use your hand if you want to give it a little bit more. So it makes sense that we really do give a little bit of time and love to this foundational part of our body, the thing that helps get us from point A to point B. And a lot of times we don't treat our feet very well, and then we wonder why we have back issues or hamstring or hip issues. Because if the foundation is messed up, it goes up the chain. So now we're going to do something that may, for some, may feel like a little intense, and it may not. Depends on the person. Depends on what kind of footwear you wear also. If your feet are crammed into shoes all day, a lot of times, especially really narrow shoes, then this one may be a little bit more intense. So all we're going to do is we're going to take one. It doesn't matter which side you start with. So pick a foot and start with it. And you're just going to take your fingers and thread them in between the webbing of your toes. So I'm going to start between my big toe and my second toe. I'm going to put my index finger there, and then I'm going to wedge the next finger in between the next two toes. And the next finger, as you can see, this can get a little bit more intense. So if you need to just do a little bit one at a time or two at a time, then go for it. But if you're able, try to wedge your fingers in between the webbing. And you can also go from the underside. So just play around and see which works better for you. And as you get down to those last few toes, it might be a lot more difficult. But what you're really going for here is to try to open your toes up a bit, because we keep them smashed together usually in our shoes and our day-to-day living. So whatever works best for you. And again, if you need to do a couple toes at a time, do that. But we're really trying to kind of open that up so you can play around here a little bit. There is no right or wrong. Just kind of play around and see what works for you. So I'm also flexing or bending my toes up and down a little bit also with my fingers in between. And it does feel intense because, again, we're not used to having our toes so spread out. But when you're done with this, you may be amazed at how much better your feet feel. So just give that a little, just play around with it here a little bit. You don't have to be very specific about this. I've just got my fingers in between my toes, and I'm kind of giving them a little bit of back and forth motion here, or you can stay static. Whatever feels best. And then go ahead and release those fingers and see if you don't feel a bit more space in between those toes. You can even spread them out a little bit and see the difference maybe between the two. So I feel like these are much more, on my right is much more open, and my left is like, hey, it's my turn. So let's go with the left or the other foot, whichever one you started with. Let's do the other. Same thing. I'm going to go on the bottom side this time and just try that out. So again, just play around. There is no, it should look a certain way or whatever. So just, again, you're threading your fingers in between your toes the best you can. And again, you can give them a little bending in and out there if you like. You can just hold them if you want. You can be like, oh, this is too intense, so just start with a couple at a time. That's fine. We're looking for a little bit of space in between those toes. So just give them a nice little shake here. See what that feels like. Feel that out a little bit. And then go ahead and release that. And again, give them a little spread there. Spread out the toes a bit and see how that feels after you've done all that. All right, so we're going to go ahead and stretch out here. We're going to sit on our mat, stretch our feet out. So yeah, go ahead and give your feet a little nice little shake and see, spread those toes out and see how they feel. So now you're just going to come to a nice seat here with your legs outstretched in front of you, long on the mat and straight. And all we're going to do is point. So our feet are going to be, flex. So our toes are going to be up toward the sky, bringing the toes kind of facing back towards you. And then you're going to point them. So this is flexing them up, and we're going to point them out and toward the front edge of our mat. So do that a couple of rounds. We're just going to flex and point, flex and point. And when you flex, really try to get those toes to open up. And the other thing you can do if you want to give your brain a little bit of a challenge here is flex one foot and point the other, and then do the opposite with the other one. So you have one that's pointed, one that's flexed, and then the other. So just do this a couple of rounds. Flexing and pointing those toes and the feet. You're actually helping your entire foot here, not just your toes. Get a nice little stretch all the way through there. And it's actually translating to the calves, up into the knees, and maybe a little bit up into the quads. So as you can see, it is all connected. So when we give this some love, you might have this a ripple effect all the way up a bit. It's a short practice, so don't expect miracles. And then go ahead and come back here. And then last, we're going to finish off with, now I didn't bring any oil or lotion out, but if you do have lotion or oil, this would be a great time to grab that. And you're just going to give yourself your own little foot massage. So again, oil or lotion can kind of help this, and especially if you warm it between your hands first. But it's not necessary. If you don't have it, don't worry about it. And again, this is, do what feels good. Notice where maybe you've got some tension in your foot. So I'm working on the bottom of my foot right now, and I'm just using the thumb. I'm using my thumb here, my thumbs, to just kind of give myself a nice little massage on the bottom of my foot. And you could do this, maybe you're like, no, I'd rather do more of the top, or maybe down by the toes, or on the side. So there's really, again, this is not a specific, we're not going through a specific massage here. I'm not a massage therapist. I don't claim to be one. So do what feels good. If you like to do the base of your toes, we're just going to concentrate here on this one foot for just a minute or so and give it some love. And it's even better if you have a partner or a friend who would love to do this. You can give each other a little foot massage. Schedule it in maybe once a week. Say, hey, let's get together and let's do a little foot care. And then we're going to go ahead and release that, and we'll do the other one. So this is a shorter class. I'm not wanting to have this be a really long class. So obviously, if any of this resonates with you, stay with it longer. You could pause the video. You could extend any of this stuff that really feels good for you. But just, you're giving your foot a little bit of extra TLC, a little bit of love, and your foot's going to thank you for doing so. And you could even do, you could take your make a fist here, and you can even get into your foot that way. So, use whatever. And if you've got a favorite tool that you want to try out that you like for your feet, go for that. This is for you to do. So I'm just giving you a little bit of guidance to get you to give your feet a little extra love. And then we're going to work on the hands and the wrist a little bit, and then we'll be done. So we're going to start seated, and we're just going to roll the wrist in circles here. We use our hands a lot during the day, especially if you're on the computer, or just, obviously we're using it when you're cooking, when you're laundry, vacuuming, whatever it might be. There's a lot of things that we use our wrist for and our hands. So we really need to give those some love also, because again, if these are tight and have tension, then that can translate all the way up into the arm and even into the shoulders, into the upper back, into the neck. I mean, it's amazing how something here can have a ripple effect up here. It could even be a cause of some of the headaches. You know, if there's tension there, it can cause tension all the way up. And again, this is not a magic class. It's not going to fix all those problems, but it's going to bring awareness to you to give these parts of our body a little bit of extra love that we tend to overlook. And then from here, we're going to start with, it doesn't matter which hand. I'm going to have my left hand outstretched first, but you can pick whichever. You're going to bring your palm facing out. And then we're just going to do one finger at a time here. So I'm going to start with my pinky finger, and I'm going to stretch that back gently here. Don't get too aggressive, but you do want to give it a nice little tug here. So my palm is facing forward here. It's bent there at the wrist, and I'm just giving that a little pinky tug there. And then we'll go to our next finger. Same thing, a little tug back. Next finger, this is flossing for the wrist. So this is really good to do. If you need a little break at your desk, you can do this at your desk. You don't have to even be on a yoga mat for this. And then we'll finish with the thumb. And again, I'm just showing you this, some techniques here. We're not going to spend a lot of time on here because I don't want to make this a really long class. But you could easily go back and do each of your fingers longer. If there's one that you notice needed more attention, then go back to that. And let's do the opposite hand now. So same thing, palm facing out, stretch. Start with the pinky finger back, your next finger. So again, you can stay in these longer if you'd like. If one of these techniques really resonated with you, then really add it into your day. Like I said, some of these you can do from at your desk. And the thumb. And then shake that out a little bit. And then now we're just going to make fist, open and close. So give it a nice deep fist here, really nice tight fist, and then open it up, let the fingers open up. Close the fist, open up, close, open up. So really just giving yourself a nice, and something else you can do is you can actually hold on to right below at the base of your hand while you're doing that. Give yourself a little, you'll actually kind of feel as you're opening all the things that are happening there to help open your hands up. Again, we take these body parts for granted and then we get upset when they have an issue. But if we can take good care of them, then maybe we're less likely to have issues. And then we're going to finish off with, this can be also intense. So I'm just going to be sitting up on my heels here. You can be on all fours if you like. That's going to put more pressure and more weight on the hands. So you're going to have to play around with this one also. We're going to take you're going to have the back of your hands is going to be on the mat, and you're going to have your palms facing up, and my fingers are facing toward me. So you can come forward as much as you like, and you can put as much weight as you like, but you don't want to overdo this because obviously this is your wrist joint here. And so that if you'd like, you can sit back a little bit to make this a little bit more intense to kind of help stretch and open that area up. Again, you're going to have to go at your own here and see what feels best for you. If you have wrist issues, this might be too intense and you can skip it. So just kind of play around with what works for you. Make sure you breathe through that a little bit. And then we're gonna turn our our fingers facing in now, and the same idea. So you can play around with how much weight you want to put on there. Just giving our wrist a little bit of a stretch there. And then go ahead and do the opposite just for a moment. So place the palms of your hands face down on the mat. Turn them in. Go all the way back around and turn your fingers towards you. And now we're going to stretch back a little bit here. You really will feel that in the front there. So again, you're going to have to play with what works for you. Right? For me, this is intense enough. I have enough pressure that I don't need to do any more than that. And then sit back on your heels. Shake out your hands. Shake out the feet a little bit. However you want to do that while you're seated. The rest especially, since we gave them a little bit of love there. And that's it. That was a simple little self-care for your feet and your hands. Thank you so much for joining me, and until next time.